Beneath the cross of Jesus, I fain would take my stand. The shadow of a mighty rock within a weary land.
Hello everyone. It is a delight to be back with you in this way on this beautiful Wednesday afternoon. Just 3 days before we mark the 20th anniversary of 9/11, a day when we honor the memories of those who died that awful day. We remember the heroes who ran into the buildings, who risked their lives and gave their lives to save others. We pray for the families whose fathers and mothers and sons and daughters never returned home. We lament the ongoing, seemingly never-ending war against terror, the thousands of soldiers who gave the last full measure of devotion in fighting that war. And we pray for those who even now are targets of that terror, especially in places like Afghanistan. Well, this week we'll probably see images of the horror of 9/11 replayed over and over on our screens. And all of those emotions we felt that day are going to come rushing back. The fear, the anxiety, the anger, the rage, the hatred, the despair. Our friend Russell Moore wrote an article for Christianity Today on the 10th anniversary of 9/11, and I think his words then are even more relevant today. He urges us to see a horror much greater than Islamic terrorism, the ongoing reality of spiritual warfare. He urges us to let those images of 9/11 to remind us of the forces that run far deeper than the doctrines of or practitioners of any one religion or ideology. After witnessing the enormity of the attacks, how can we fail, he asks, to distinguish between the real enemy and our law-abiding Muslim neighbors? As Christians, we feel maybe a bit uneasy with scriptures that present a picture of the universe as a war zone, this present age as a satanic empire being invaded by the kingdom of Jesus. The church around the world, especially in what sociologist Philip Jenkins calls the global south, understands this kind of demon-haunted universe pictured in the scriptures. But many American Christians seem embarrassed at this. And maybe because of how spiritual warfare was portrayed in popular novels of the previous generation, with invisible angels and demons duking it out over small-town America. Or maybe just because we're afraid of being labeled ignorant or unsophisticated or anti-science. Many mainline Protestant churches removed onward Christian soldiers from their hymnals years ago. But when was the last time you heard an evangelical praise chorus speaking of the war against the satanic powers? The softening of spiritual warfare language hasn't led to a more peaceful church. Listen to Christian talk radio or podcasts or attend a faith and values rally and you'll hear plenty of warfare speech. Unlike past crusades, however, such language is directed primarily at people perceived to be cultural and political enemies. If we're too afraid of seeming weird to talk about the devil, Moore says, we will find ourselves declaring war against evil as just some vague, impersonal concept. Where there are no demons, we tend to demonize people. Without a clear vision of the very real spiritual forces we as the church are supposed to be aligned against, we find it very difficult to distinguish between enemy combatants and their hostages, their POWs. The scriptures clearly command us to be gentle and kind to unbelievers, not because we're not at war, but because we're not at war with them. 2 Timothy 2:26. When we see clearly that we're warring against principalities and powers in the heavenly places, we can see that we're not wrestling against flesh and blood, against people, according to Ephesians 6:12. The path to peace, then, isn't through belligerent, hostile language, nor is it through passive surrender. The path to peace is through fighting the right war, as Romans 16:20 says, and fighting that war the right way, on our knees, and in the fruit of the Spirit, as Paul teaches in Galatians 5:22 and 23. So let's join the rest of the world in remembering on this 20th anniversary of 9/11. Let's not flinch from the trauma, but let's not be paralyzed by it either. And along the way, let's remember to have compassion for those who flinch at the trauma of our gospel, who cringe when the light of God's judgment exposes their dark places. Let's remember that the hands we are reaching out with are scabbed over with Roman spike holes, and the cross we're holding out is caked in blood. In the cross, the ultimate ground zero, God tells us He knows all our traumas, our insurgencies, and our secrets, and that He has already executed them at Golgotha. Let's remember, too, that the gospel, the good news of God's love in Jesus Christ, brings peace and reconciliation to every ground zero in the universe. On the day when the graves are opened, even those tombs beneath the rubble of terror, we will see just how good this news is, even better than our shiny churches and happy choruses and stirring sermons can convey. And then Moore concludes, but between now and then, it can be scary as hell. I invite you now to pray with me. And our prayer is a song, as we often do on Wednesday Words. It's a hymn, Beneath the Cross of Jesus.
Beneath the cross of Jesus, I fain would take my stand. The shadow of a mighty rock within a weary land, a home within the wilderness, a rest upon the way. From the burning of the noontide heat and the burden of the day. Upon the cross of Jesus, mine eye at times can see the very dying form of one who suffered there for me. And from my stricken heart with tears to wonders I confess, the wonders of His glorious love and my unworthiness. I take, O cross, thy shadow for my abiding place. I ask no other sunshine than the sunshine of His face. Content to let the world go by, to know no gain or loss. My sinful self, my only shame, my glory, all the cross. I take, O cross, thy shadow for my abiding place. I ask no other sunshine than the sunshine of his face. Content to let the world go by, to know no gain or loss. My sinful self, my only shame, my glory, all the